Guess we're just jumping into this. Welcome back, everyone. Wait a minute, is this episode 100? Holy
Triple
crap.
digits.
This is amazing. Welcome, everyone. What do you got?
This is a banner week, I have to say. First, we had Yiz with 200 episodes, and now we got us with 100. So there you go.
Thank you, Mr. Mandrill. Yeah, this is amazing. I've been on a lot of these. It's an honor, gentlemen, always. So, as you can probably tell, the president's not here, the vice president's not here, so it falls on me again. I'm going to tell you about some people that take care of us, but first, I want to introduce the guest for tonight's show. So, it's been a while. Mr. NotMeNotYou is here. How are you doing?
Doing great, Pete. Good to be back. I think I fell asleep and woke up in 2015 based on some of the stories we had tonight.
Amazing, isn't it? Everybody tune in on Wednesday nights at Chapter House. That's Mr. NotMeNotYou's little project over there, and I think it's going really well. So everybody check that out. Mr. Mandrill, Raging Mandrill, how are you doing?
Great, hanging in there as per usual. Thanks.
Awesome. And our guest, Stormy Waters. It feels like we just talked yesterday, or the day before,
doesn't it?
Or the day before that. How you doing, man?
Doing fantastic. Happy to be here. It's actually
right.
I was here. What, New Year's?
Oh, was it New Year's?
Yeah.
Huh. Cool. All right, let's get the
Spencer joke I've ever heard.
that was the night of the election.
Oh yes, that's right. Election night. So it's been longer than New Year's.
Yeah, Thomas talking to Bird. Talk about like just planets colliding and just crossover galore there. Amazing. All right, let me knock some shilling out here. We sponsor Alp. Alp is a sponsor us. Does Alp sponsor us, or do we? I think we sponsor Alp.
We have an affiliate agreement with them.
Yeah, we have an affiliate agreement with them. So head on over to Alp. Nose in. We saw how they treat us, and use promo code OGC for a discount. Fox and Sons Coffee. There's no better shiller of Fox and Sons coffee than me. I think I was the first one who was drinking it and really talking about it, and then turned on a lot of people to it. And people are like, what's up? And they're like, holy crap, this is good stuff. So head on over to foxandsons.com and do promo code OGC. It's 18% off for $40, and you get free shipping. Axios Fitness, the man over there. What is our code? Is our code just OGC with all of these? You see, I'm a professional here, right?
We got links in the description.
Okay. Go to the description. Axios Fitness. This is going to be a long winter, and for those of us who are already enough out of shape, we don't want to get any worse. And it would be great to come out of winter in better shape than we went in. It rarely happens. Last thing to shill, East Coast Forum. If you're interested in going to an OGC event on the East Coast, very limited seats left. That's not a selling point. There are very limited seats left. Reach out to the OGC, and we will tell you, you can get more information about it. All right, you can tell how great I am at doing that because I just stumbled all over my words. So I just want to get into the stories for tonight because obviously there's one that everybody wants to hear what we're going to say, talk about, and what our comments are going to be on it, but we're going to save that one. The first one we're going to talk about is the fact that it seems like some troops are not getting paid. And I actually saw a report that there were troops waiting on like bread lines to get food. But President Trump said something very odd the other day, and I think we got that queued up here.
The government shutdown. You have the money to pay the troops on October 15th. Okay. I
actually have a man who is a very wealthy person. You'll know that when I tell you this. Who called a donor a great gentleman, and he said, if there's any money necessary, shortfall, for the paying of the troops, then I will pay it, meaning he will pay it. How about that? I said, look, we're not going to need it. We're going to take care of our troops, but this was a position that's being forced upon us by Democrats, and all they have to do is just sign a piece of paper saying we're going to keep it going the way it is. You know, there's nothing. It's not like it shouldn't even be an argument.
All right. So we have a private individual in this in this era of weird things happening, and in this case, history repeating itself. We have someone stepping up and saying, we got a shortfall in the government. I'll cover it. So what does everybody got to say about that?
Yeah, where
It's
have
very
we heard
reminiscent.
this before? I think Stormy did might have done something with you on that.
Yeah, the last time we saw this was, let's just assume it's Elon, right? Is that what everybody's thinking?
Oh, I was much more cynical than that. I was thinking it was like Miriam Adelson or something.
He did say a man. I mean, like,
But did he say man?
I don't think Miriam
seen her?
Adelson wants to talk to Mr. Trump after his little speech at the Knesset. I mean, if looks could kill, Trump actually would have been assassinated by Israel.
I was being cynical, being cynical.
I think it is. I think it is Elon. I hope it is. I hope it is. Either that or somebody else that listens to Pete's show and remembers the episodes on the robber barons, because this is the last time we've really seen something like this is John Pierpont Morgan, who bailed out the United States in, what is it, the 1897 crash. It was the big one. It basically blew up the government. Government was about to default in its debt, and really that's why the dollar carries the premium it does. The reason that we are the world's reserve currency has nothing to do with, guns or oil or anything like that. It's just a common leftoid nonsensical thing that just everyone adopted because it sounded true. The reason why the US is the world reserve currency, because it's the only country in the history of the world that has never A, defaulted on its debt, and B, canceled its currency. Euro bros, unfortunately, know this all too well, even though they might not even know it's happening to them. Right? Whenever the Bank of England issues new notes, just turn all your old notes in, we're going to issue new ones. Euro's done this twice in its brief 30-year existence. Right? So if you had a bunch of money under your mattress, right, and let's say that you bought that mattress, or you inherited that mattress from your great-great-granddad and found that it was full of money from, I don't know, 1880. Every single one of those dollar bills is going to be taken by any institution or any business in the United States, because we've never canceled our currency, which really matters a lot when you're dealing with foreign currency reserves of other countries. So the reason why this has never happened is because of John Pierpont Morgan, who is probably one of the greatest Americans to ever live. For those of you who haven't watched my my series with Pete on the robber barons, John Pierpont Morgan leveraged every single thing that he owned, right? So all of his houses, his boats, all of his funds, borrowed against all of it. If he wasn't going to be able to bail the US government out, he would have been literally homeless. So this was one of the most wealthiest men on the planet at the time, right? Risked everything to try and save the US government. And if he was unsuccessful, he would have been penniless. Like, that's what an American elite used to be like. So much so that since he, totaling all of the sums up, he wasn't able to do all of it. He was only 90% of the way there. He needed the other 10%. So Pierpont got the great idea of inviting the other financiers, the other top financiers of young Wall Street, onto his boat. The Corsair is like the very first yacht. As soon as he got out past, we'll say swimming distance, or when you couldn't see the horizon anymore, he came up from his stateroom. Everyone was sitting around the dining room table waiting for lunch to be served. And he goes, "Gentlemen, this morning I have taken lines of credit from each one of your banks for the total of my sums," right? So all of his liquid securities, which, should have already like raised some red flags. He borrowed against the same securities from 4 different banks. And he goes, "Well, I'm going to attempt to bail out the United States government, and I would like you guys to help me. And if you don't, I will take all of my now liquid cash and the 5 times the amount of cash that I now have, thanks to each one of you gentlemen individually. All of that money will be immediately used to short each and every one of your stocks. And by the time my captain takes you back, each one of you will be bankrupt, and I will owe that line of credit to no one. So either you help me bail out the American government, or I make 5 times my money and all of you go out of business. You've got 10 minutes. If my captain doesn't hear from me and radio my man on the shore, he will begin shorting." Then he goes back downstairs. Surprisingly, each one of these individuals known for having no patriotism outside of their ethnic group suddenly found a new feeling called patriotism, and were overcome with the urge to express that patriotism through the bailing out of the United States government.
Yeah, and aside from, the robber barons trying to save the U.S. dollar, this shows something really big. If private billionaires, private individuals are willing to put up their money to fund the military, this is a pretty bad sign for the Democrats, especially if you're trying to keep your troops loyal. It sets an interesting precedent, or at least it makes us it looks like we're heading in an interesting direction with this sort of thing. If Trump's trying to keep loyalty in the military, this is a really good way to do it, especially post-Obama purges.
Well, as the common military adage goes, the eagle shits twice a month, and he who controls that particular pay schedule is responsible for ensuring that the troops not only stay loyal but disciplined. One of the great problems of history, if you've ever studied any of the Renaissance period wars or anything involving mercenaries, is that if you want a loyal and effective military force that is willing to accept military discipline, you have to be able to pay them routinely at regular intervals. And so, of course, this is interesting that, the troops are, there's a question of this, definitely. The one thing that I noticed, though, was the food stamps thing. That's not something that's new. You will a lot of times hear about stories from like the 80s when Volcker was the reserve chairman, and like really, really old salt boomers who were long retired now. They will tell you stories about how when they were in the service that, the troops were on food stamps and that sort of thing. So it's definitely something that does happen, and more often than you might think. It's not necessarily related to, the troops are not getting a paycheck. Like, it's also got to do with whether or not their paycheck actually is able to cover all of the expenses, right? So Yeah, but that's very surprising because they all normally get BAH and BAS and all of that stuff, so all of their normative expenses get covered.
I had a thought
Not
about.
you. Oh, go ahead.
I had a thought about if this is Elon. I remember Charles Haywood talking about the fact that he believes that at some point, unless all of our enemies get crushed, which, well, that Elon's going to have his own private military, basically in order to survive in the United States. Just wondering if this would be Elon warming up for how paying troops and getting people loyal and on his side for the future.
I suppose that would depend on how close he is to Eric Prince.
You were going to say something, Stormy?
Yeah, how much to our military-minded men in the stream? Can you guys talk a bit about the Obama purges and just how, world-changing they were? Because I've heard this from several retired military guys that were kind of pushed out during his purge of the leadership. But I don't think a lot of people understand how how revolutionary it actually was. And I'm just not the person to talk about that, but very much would like to hear about it.
Yeah, Mandrill, do you, I mean, so the general overview is that Obama purged the military of the old white man class, right? The people who've actually been serving for through GWAT, through the first Gulf War. And that's where we started seeing all the diversity hires getting pushed further and further up the chain. You hear about people have written books on this, and I can't remember the name of the author that I was listening to recently talking about how the upper echelons, basically anything higher than colonel, requires you to do quite compromising things in order to get into leadership, as they're as much political positions now as they are actually for keeping a healthy, functioning military. Mandrill, you got anything else on that?
I mean, yeah, like it's a common refrain among, if not junior officers, then certain, or at least the more base-minded ones, those that exist, but also senior enlisted types will, if you can get them to level with you, or LDOs or that sort of thing, like the real salts of the earth types who actually run the military on a day-to-day basis, they will tell you that this stuff didn't really start under Obama. These processes have been in place for a really, really long time. And especially if you're talking about like women in flag officer positions, like all of those people got their start in the 1990s, in the early 90s, when combat positions or certain positions on naval warships or that sort of thing were beginning to be offered for female officers. It's and like really you see that this happens with the first thing, right, which is the sexual harassment stuff, right? You put women into uniform. There's no real rules. It's kind of the Wild West. What happens? What do you think is going to happen? Well, that's how you get something like, the tailhook scandal of the early mid 90s happening, right? This is when a bunch of dudes go to a bar and, backhaul and feel up one of their fellow pilots, basically, and that turns into a whole big thing. And of course, that has a bit of a chilling effect. Like, guys are going to be men, and so of course, when the men are allowed to be men and interact with women in the usual and normal way, well, what do you think is going to happen? So second of all, that creates a billet, right? It's called the SAPR, right? Or Sexual Assault Prevention and Response Coordinator, right? This is on every single military command has one of these, right? And usually you'll find that this billet is very, very highly valued. It tends to advance your career a lot. to have this in your fit reps. And it's basically you almost always given to women, right? Almost always. So you can see the progression among females at the junior officer level, and it gives them a little bit of a way to get fast tracked into senior leadership roles. And of course everybody else, all the Brian listed in LDOs who are a bit crusty, like they've seen these processes happen throughout the entirety of their career, and there is a general mistrust of everybody above a commander level, or basically everybody who wears silver oak leaves and above. And there's a very good reason for that, because for those who might not be aware, officers, like, you kind of get promoted to 03 just by fogging a mirror. Right? That's the joke anyway. You don't have to earn promotion, whereas everything 04 and above, you have to actually do stuff and be impressive. And like 04 is like the major cutoff point, right? If you're not with the program politically, or if you don't do the right things at the right time, you're just not going to make it to 05 and above. And that's just the way it is, right? So there's a reason for the mistrust, and all of the people that got their start in the 1990s, those people are now, if they've persisted long enough in their career, they're all in senior leadership positions. And the purges that happened that you referred to, Stormy, didn't just occur at the top levels, right? That's one thing, but you got to remember, like, the enemy strategy is not just purge the top ranks, right? It's always top down, bottom up, inside out. And there was a bottom up push as well at the same time. And I remember very clearly being on my first ship, and so at the end of my tour, we came into like a bit of a yard period, as one often does. And they were essentially making the barracks inside of the ship, the berthing, if you were, as it were, into partial female barracks, right? That's what is essentially happening, right? So you're actually physically altering the inside of the ship to accommodate a greater percentage of not just female senior non-commissioned officers, which was already happening. My first ship was unique because it was still under the kind of old rubric of exclusively male junior enlisted, exclusively male senior enlisted, and then a couple of female officers here and there. And that changed over the course of the span of my tour, basically. And the change was basically instantaneous, right? Completely instantaneous. So the broad level changes that were happening were just not a one deal. It was a full spectrum attack,
Friend of the show, Dawn Browning, lets us know that friend of the club, Semiagog, did an entire episode on this on a podcast named Chain Smoke, for anyone interested in looking for that.
All right. Thank you, Don.
Yeah, Semiagog is one of the best out there at doing deep dives on stuff that he may not be familiar with, but he locks himself up and comes out knowing as much as the people who were there. Is quite the talent for that. So before we move on, does anybody have anything else to say about this? I mean, we're basically talking about having private people covering public bills in times of crisis. And I think, I don't know about you guys, but seeing the reaction and knowing that we have no Kings 2.0 coming up, I think this is just the beginning. I think we can see more shutdowns, and this may become a pattern.
I think that was the point. I think the Democrats were okay with shutting it down, knowing that they could do this military thing, and that red team would have to buckle because the military is like its sacred thing. So I bet you the purges that are happening now, because I guess the president gets special powers in a time of a government shutdown to mass lay off staff of the executive branch, which is 3 million fucking people. I bet you this buys them time on the clock that they need to go much further than the Democrats were planning on them going. Because red team would have had to buckle if the military wasn't getting funded.
Yeah, I mean, this is if this happened under a Democrat presidency, I'd say this was very, very bad. But because this seems to be, as Stormy was saying, a gamble by the Dems, I could see this is actually quite good. The first Trump administration suffered from lack of loyalists, and I think that Trump, for all his faults, is not a stupid man and has learned from that. And with his building up the DHS as a new kind of Varangian guard, and this happening, if this does end up happening, it just assures more loyalty. So, it stems from something bad, a tactic used by the Dems to try to, cut off Trump's presidency at the knees, but it might end up backfiring on them in a spectacular way.
All right. Well, let's move on here because that was a good way to start because we didn't just start out with the rage. So we're going to look at a tweet here about Somalis registering to vote. We can get that tweet up there. All right, here we go. It says Minnesota driver's manual is in Somali. Changes to voter registration on driver's license and ID card applications. Instead of opting in to register to vote when applying for or renewing a driver's license or ID card, the information of any applicant who provides proof of U.S. citizenship, such as a U.S. passport, birth certificate, certificate of naturalization, etc., will now be automatically forwarded to the Office of the Secretary of State for voter registration. If a person has previously applied for a driver's license or ID card in Minnesota, the DVS, the Driver and Vehicle Services, may not currently have the citizenship documents that were originally used to verify identity. In that case, the individual may submit a document proving citizenship to start the voter registration process under the new system. The DVS will not send applicant information to the Secretary of State if those citizenship documents were provided before October 1st, 2023. If a person does not wish to be registered to vote after providing DVS with citizenship documentation, they must notify the Office of Secretary of State that they do not want to be registered. Growing up in New York City, which when I was growing up, there was about 2,200 to 2,400 murders a year. We used to dream about living someplace where that didn't happen. And Minnesota was always held out as like this paradise. Of course, even at that time, they didn't tell you why it was being held out as a paradise. But how quickly great places fall when you introduce human bioweapons to them. And now you're going to allow those human bioweapons who have a representative in Washington who openly says, I do not serve the American people. Fuck you, whitey. I serve the Somali people. And now they're going to be able to vote even if they're not citizens.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this before about Michigan, but in the future, there are large swathes of Michigan and Minnesota that are going to basically have to be depopulated by force. We effectively have foreign ethnic enclaves that have, like, Kiers Jewel and other Hasid communities have set up, foreign ethnic enclaves in places like New York. And for the most part, they just ghettoize themselves and they don't really meddle in state affairs. Not so for the Somalis and the other, brownoids that have been placed in these white enclaves for the purposes of breaking them up and destroying them. And that's exactly what they're doing. Like, this is all completely intentional on the part of everybody who brings them there. And I don't see where this goes, how this is remedied without mass deportations, or in the future just a literal invasion of some of these areas.
Yeah, what's interesting is that this thing about automatically being registered to vote with a driver's license, I remember, and the chat can correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember like starting like 2018, 2019, a lot of blue states announced that they'd be doing this.
Yep, I remember that. California specifically, and I think it wasn't the whole
Illinois.
state. It was like San Francisco or Oakland or some municipality, but they originally started doing this stuff for like school board elections, like that sort of like local election stuff, which is just insane when you think about it, like, and if you're using a driver's license, well, California and New York and Illinois all issue driver's licenses to illegal aliens, right? This is the whole purpose, and I say this again and again, why real ID for your driver's license is even a thing in the first place. Like, there's a reason why you have to have the little star on the top right of your license, because you have to pay an additional fee and all of that, right? Because the illegals are in California allowed a license, right? It's so ridiculous. Like, it's just there to deliberately blur boundaries and get people to vote who have no business even being in the United States, much less being given a privilege of citizenship.
What was that Knesset guy that was bragging about destroying that town in Sweden? Was it called Samo or something like that? Was the name of the town?
Malmo.
Malmo.
I can't remember what the guy's name is. Yeah, but the video is out there. He was saying that the Swedes just consider themselves to be so moral. I had to teach them a lesson.
Yeah. They hold the grudge for a really long time. I find it very interesting that one of the first cities to be flooded by third world biomass, particularly like, mystery meat, Arab or Somali, was Dearborn, Michigan, the town that Henry Ford built.
Every single time.
Thank you, Tucker.
I really wish that wasn't as true as it is, but times they are changing.
They certainly are.
Yeah, I mean, it really is every single time. If our producer checked the chat, our friend Capitalissimo sends us a very interesting little bit about how this can be combated by the Trump administration. Basically, this is a violation that would allow the admin to put leverage on these states and take away their highway funding, which was used in a lot of places to get the age at which you can buy and drink alcohol raised to 21, which is also what gave us open container laws in some states. But yeah, is our producer with us right now?
So I think we all remember who the governor of Minnesota is. A guy who employs people who assassinate politicians in his home state, who allegedly probably beats his son, and pretty sure he's gay. Allegedly, I've heard things, but
does he beat his son because his son's retarded, or did he beat his son retarded?
Yeah, well, chicken or the egg. And he also has a wife who says that when Minnesota was burning to start off the summer of George, she would open the window and smell the revolution. It smelled like revolution. Who are these people, and where the hell did they come from? And can we get them to take DNA tests, please?
Yeah, that video of his wife during the election talking about turning the page was, well, it was just she looked like a demon.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we have a video here of Waltz talking about driver's licenses for all.
It's done.
A packed room at the St. Paul Armory erupted after the governor's signature made driver's license for all the law of the land.
So we give driver's licenses to anyone here. You don't have to be a citizen. You don't have to, which is a photo ID. So if someone comes in, they register, they have the driver's license, but they have an incorrect social or no social or whatever. So then they become incomplete. But if they walk in to vote with their driver's license, does that make them all of a sudden now okay?
Mr. Linnell.
Madam Chair, so the designation on the roster for someone whose registration had been incomplete, if they present the election judge with that acceptable identification document, that would clear the challenge from the roster and they would be permitted to cast a ballot.
Mr. Anderson.
Well, okay, there's your problem potentially. So thank you.
So just to clarify, someone who is not a citizen but presents a driver's license at that point in the process could be permitted to vote.
Madam Chair, at the time of registration, as well as at the time of submitting a ballot, every voter is signing the attestation affirming their eligibility to vote, including that they meet all eligibility requirements, that they are a U.S. citizen.
So we're just on the honor system then. This totally cannot be exploited.
All mealy mouth faggots get the wall. That guy is going to be first.
I mean, these are
I just hate
traitors.
the lawyer language. I really hate it so much. It irks me.
They're traitors and they're race traitors. I mean, that's what they are. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah, I think it's particularly poignant that as he signs this bill that allows third worlders to come here and make our roads more dangerous and congested, that they all throw their fists up and start chanting some commie gobbledygook about how I guess driving is a human right now. Basically anything to these people is a human right as long as it can impose a cost on Heritage America.
I mean, weren't they chanting "Si se puede"? I mean, like they're even chanting in Spanish, like just deport, immediately deport.
I mean, they refuse. Some of them just absolutely refuse to speak English or learn it. I mean, and this didn't start. This isn't recent. I mean, when I was growing up, there were people who lived in New York who had lived in New York in New York City for 30 or 40 years who only spoke Spanish or only spoke Italian. And it's just the system back then was set up to accommodate people who, weren't going to assimilate. So, I mean, it's no wonder that we've gotten to the point where, we're having states just say driving is a human right, and libertarians would actually agree. I mean, I remember in 2016, there was like this whole at the presidential debate, everybody booed when I think Gary Johnson said, yeah, people should have driver's licenses. And like the libertarians booed him. And we know how they feel about borders too. So, I mean, these are the people who are carrying on the quote on the conservative, conservatives, we're just libertarians who, are when it comes to our culture, we're a little more right wing. But anyone can come here and say a pledge and be be one of us. I mean, it doesn't take anything, right?
Yeah,
You gotta just gotta do it the legal way, right?
libertarians, for all their ridiculous economic arguments about stuff, half of them which are absolutely insane, they don't seem to have ever heard of the idea of negative externalities, or that those negative externalities can exist in domains that aren't economics, that don't involve only money. So like libertarians are called lulberts for a reason. The fact that they're still running around in year of our Lord 2025 it's really something.
Yeah, every libertarian is basically just a pegging enthusiast that talks about economics. They're all. I've never met a libertarian that wasn't just an insufferable fag at this point. I know a lot of people that were libertarian and have ended up someplace very, very different. I don't know anybody that's still libertarian that isn't an insufferable loser at this point.
I mean, if you don't
said
take
it best, it's a religion.
Yeah, it's a pipeline. All libertarianism should only be a way station on the way to the right, because you cannot have what they're advocating for until you have order, and you cannot have order until you have a functioning society, and you cannot have a functioning society with 65 IQ Somalis. It's real simple. It's even simpler than, like all these big words like praxeology, and I mean, it's just other words for I suck dick.
Yep. You know what's funny about like the Somalians were doing all that autism scamming during COVID, all right, but it's only half scamming because their children are literally so retarded they classify as special needs whenever they get them tested. So the fraud comes after what do I do with my retarded children? Right. The Somalis' idea is, well, I'm going to do fraud then. But the reason that the autism cases have spiked is also the same reason that the national IQ has dropped. It's not because Americans are getting dumber. It's because a whole bunch of retards come to America and libertarians say they're just as American as anybody else. And that's why the scores are plummeting. But the autism crisis should really be called the retarded Somali kid crisis in Michigan.
What's the average IQ you need to be able to entertain a hypothetical?
I believe it's 80.
Yeah, I think it's between 80 and 85.
So you have to be between 80 and 85 to entertain a hypothetical, which is pretty much all libertarianism is. And they're all for importing people who can't entertain a hypothetical, so can't understand what they're advocating. Or when they figure out what they're advocating, they figure out that, oh, they're advocating that because I believe in violence and I think the non-aggression principle is for pussies, I'm just going to do whatever the fuck I want. And you're going to be scared to do anything because you don't want to go to jail, which you will, because all the DAs are on my side.
Libertarians are literally the worst.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks that we have to talk about them, but because
well, you have around. The reason we have to talk about them is because conservatives have adopted have even though they can't explain it in explicit libertarian terms, most of their ideas are libertarian. They adopted the worst parts of libertarian, quote unquote free markets. Oh, you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. Or I mean anything. Oh, anyone can be a citizen. All they have to do is do it legally. I mean, I used to live in South Florida. Anyone who's ever been to South Florida and dealt with the Haitian population down there should be really needs to question anything that they believe that's libertarian.
Yeah, it really is a circle jerk, right? It is a cul-de-sac designed to trap high IQ white kids. That's what libertarianism is. It's an intellectual cul-de-sac that triggers all their priors and is meant to trap and politically neutralize high IQ white kids. That's what it is. And really, the number one, the first enemy of every revolutionary rightist movement is the conservative.
We have
the
that
first boss.
We have that tweet from our friend.
Okay, I'll read it. This is from Capitalissimo, OGC legend. When a license is issued in any state, the state must query the National Driver Register, NDR, which is operated by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, which is part of the Department of Transportation, a cabinet-level agency of the executive branch. Participation in the NDR is mandatory if states want to receive federal highway funds. Minnesota received $917 million in 2025. The president could issue an executive order tomorrow mandating the cross-checking of NDR queries with DHS's Systematic Alien Verification for Entitlements SAVE database, flagging immigration status violations and issuing denials on that basis. Non-compliant states will lose their highway funding. And what that means is that last sentence, non-compliant states will lose their highway funding. As somebody who used to maybe work in an industry that depended upon, had to exist in order for the state that they lived in to get highway funding, meant that over half of that is not going to go into the pockets of state representatives.
And those state representatives will very quickly change their tune when the piper is playing something like this. You know, it's important because I think it was John Carter who just recently put out an article on Substack called Postocracy, where he posits that we are kind of ruled by posters right now. So there is a very real chance that every time something like this comes up, if we can make enough noise about it, that the administration is going to hear about it. And so this is a relatively low cost win for the Trump administration that could help save American lives and, help stop the Democratic machine from, continuing to do everything they can to steal elections. So, this is definitely worth boosting. And Cap is one of those amazing guys who can put together these strategies on the fly. So we thank him for that.
Speaking of voting, the Southern District of Florida just charged a voting machine company called Smartmatic in a Philippine bribery and money laundering scandal. These are also the people that ran a large majority of the voting machines in 2020. The company is owned by a bunch of Venezuelan nationals out of Canada, and they share the exact same office building. If memory serves, no, that may be Dominion Voting Systems that shares the office building and floor with the George Soros's Quantum Fund. I believe it's the office next door for Dominion. But yeah, there's a lot going on with the Venezuela thing, and it's not just, because Venezuela says mean things about Israel. And anybody that tells you that's being silly. It is a vector for foreign influence, and apparently a very effective one. So I see lots of voting stuff going on right now by the administration. This is absolutely something I think we could meme into existence because it's something that they're already focused on. At least the DOJ is.
I will take this time to plug something I have coming up. I will be recording tomorrow with Dr. Matthew Raphael Johnson on his research into Venezuela. And we will talk about, he will give evidence and give ample proof that yes, the Every Single Time gang is definitely interested in Venezuela, and maybe not because they're mean, but because
Without a doubt.
why wouldn't they be?
Yep. They're like, oh, the country's about to get destroyed. Let me go in there and take all your shit.
Yeah.
They did the same thing in Argentina, right?
Oh, I mean, Argentina, what, now they need a bailout? What happened? I thought this Rothbardian was there to say, oh, no, but it's so much harder because, things were so... Yeah, that's kind of the point.
More interesting is this libertarian Kabbalist, like this libertarian Jewish mystic enthusiast. Do you want to know why he needs a bailout? Well, the currency's in free fall, the market's in free fall. How would you stop that? Well, a country generally has gold reserves. Except for Argentina doesn't, because the very
they're in London.
first thing that Argentina did under Milei's presidency, right? First thing that Milei did was send all of Argentina's gold to Rothschilds and Sons in the city of London. And if you haven't noticed, there's a lot of interesting stuff happening with gold prices. I think we'll talk about that later. But let's just say they were in need of some, backstopping of their own. And our diligent young servant of Zion was happy to take the nation of Argentina's fiscal reserves, the thing that props up the country's monetary system and arguably the country itself, and send them all away. And that's why Argentina needs a bailout, because every single time. Fucking face libertarian, get the fuck out of here.
The first thing Milei did when he got elected was fly to New York and go pay homage to Rabbi Schneerson, who was dead, but still.
Not if you ask his followers, they're doing necromancy rituals all the time.
Decidedly not.
I actually have a video of
many
Milei
such
taking
cases.
part in one. I have a
Many
video of
such
Milei
cases.
taking part of a
Is that what the
necromancy
tunnels are
ritual.
for?
I sure hope not. Actually, I hope so, because that would be the least grotesque thing that could possibly be happening in them. But yeah, I will. I'll drop you a link to it after the show. But yeah, Javier Milei doing Kabbalistic necromancy ritual with a bunch of Shabbat rabbis. Very interesting. This happened right around the time as every Zionist pretending to be a right-winger, which there are many, was telling us how based Milei was.
Yes. And what's funny is, the one libertarian, I guess the greatest living libertarian that pretty much any one of us could have a great conversation with is Hans Hermann Hoppe. I think we'd all agree with that. He saw what Milei was right away, started talking about it, and libertarians started calling him a lol cow. If Murray Rothbard was alive, he would be he would be what the hell, what's that converso Orthodox priest, the one who's so based and everything and
Father
speaks out
Nathaniel?
against. Yeah. What's his
Father Nathaniel?
Oh yeah. If Rothbard was alive, he would be Father Brother Nathaniel, Father Nathaniel, but like way less annoying because he saw through all this. Why do you think Hoppe could see through it? Who do you think taught him?
What did Hoppe say about Milei? I didn't catch this.
Everything that you've said, that he was that he's tied to Zionists. He's a pure Zionist. All of his interests are going to be interests that align with Israel. Yeah. If you think this guy is an anarcho-capitalist libertarian, you have another thing coming. And oh, by the way, I think Hoppe was right. Huh. Imagine that. Charlemagne's in the chat and says,
right.
yeah, Charlemagne's in chat and says, wow, look at all these haters who don't like Judeo-necromancy rituals. Oh my God, just let people enjoy things.
My man.
Oh man, it's so good. All right, we got anything else on this? Man, we made it all the way from Somalis getting registered to vote to just absolutely shitting on Javier Milei. And wow, that was a great trip, and one that we should probably try to do again.
Yeah, this is the most based chud show on the entire internet.
All right, I guess this is the one that some people might want us to hear about. It seems that we can't have private places, even amongst ourselves. The young Republicans of the GOP, who, you would think are probably pretty normie, turn out to be like pretty much all the Gen Z guys, based as hell. And they have a nice Telegram chat. And what happens? Look at some of these. Look, I'm not going to read some of these because this is this is on YouTube, and yeah, we don't need that. But it turns out that, like many such cases, and pretty much every such case, the call was coming from inside the house, and these were released, and they were sent to Politico, right? If I'm not mistaken. And yeah, so somebody decided that they couldn't have racist racial jokes going on privately in the chat, or a couple good Jew jokes or anything like that. They needed to get it out. And I mean, personally, what I think is happening here, and why I think the GOP, the establishment GOP, is circling the wagons, and why so many quote unquote conservatives are circling the wagons, is because you're taking away their greatest weapon. And their greatest weapon for defeating the left is, how can we say that the left are the real racists and the left are the real anti-Semites if we have jokes about, if our guys are doing jokes about that privately, or may even hold those views privately, racist or JQing. You're taking away all our power, man. We know we're going to defeat the left by saying they're the real racists and they're the real anti-Semites. I mean, the left, the Democrats are the party of Hamas, right? That's going to defeat them. Fucking idiot, scum, traitors. Kodrianu was right.
Yeah,
what was
my
the
favorite
ethnic
part-
identity of the individual that leaked the chats?
Oh,
Every
I don't
single time.
I mean, I love on this screenshot that Politico puts together, they're like, oh, let's get all the worst things that they said and put it up front and center. And then there's just the one, yo, I don't really know who that offended, but I'm sure it offended somebody. Yeah, I mean, this is just confirming, like, right. I woke up this morning or yesterday and we were in 2015 when this story broke. We all know what the conservatives are. The establishment conservatives are the enemy, as Stormy is saying. They are always going to stand in the way of the right actually making progress in fighting back the enemies of civilization that are represented by the left. And it's one thing to say, when political correctness first reared its head in the 80s, died out in the 90s, and then came back with a vengeance as wokeness in the noughts and the 2010s. That this pearl clutching was more of a youth movement. or it's more of a thing. This Puritanism was kind of more of a youthful thing. But now those young people are old, and they're in the establishment GOP, and it's just weak men and women who still think that they can win this fight by being nice to the enemy that wants them dead.
How many, like, I know there's a bunch of young Republican chapters across the country that immediately put out statements disavowing them and, you know, how terrible they are and whatever. And didn't it end up coming out that like a lot of these chapters, a lot of these state chapters are run by like fat childless women?
Yeah, I mean, this really highlights the necessity of what the Old Glory Club is, and why we need to be here. We're not a political organization, but any organization run by women is going to turn into something like this, and they're going to start seeing when the organization becomes the Longhouse, they're always going to see natural, youthful male vitality and shit talking as an existential threat to their power, which it is, because these Herodins are.
Unless that's the one in New York. That one's the Yom Kippur house, apparently.
But these, the Old Glory Club is like, we need fraternal societies where these boys can do what they do and, help each other and stand by each other if something like this comes out. The GOP, the Young Republicans, I could see TPUSA doing something like this, but this can't last. These organizations that can't attract young men because the young effective men are afraid that they're going to be stabbed in the back the moment that things get rocky. We're the only game in town. So thank you, young Republicans, for just pushing young men further and further out of the GOP containment. You're your own worst enemy.
And O'Sullivan's Law, and I think I forget Robert. People also say Robert Conquest's second law. Undefeated. An organization's political orientation will inevitably drift leftward unless it has a strong right-wing foundation. Every single time. Every single time. Every single time. And
friend of the show, Woes, had a good comment on this, on a good post on this. I'll read after you're done.
Yeah. So every single time, you can't let women into positions of power. You can't. There are other groups you can't let into positions of power. You just can't. You can't. Because when people look around and they see who is overrepresented in positions that are fucking us and, destroying this country, inevitably somebody's not going to have as much self-restraint as you are, and they're going to say something. And inevitably, that person's ethnic self-interest is going to kick in. That's just, it's proven in this case. I don't need to wax on about this.
If your private right-wing group has a single Jew, you are already 100% compromised. Everyone needlessly insists on learning this fact the hard way again and again. Zero tolerance. And that was from friend of the show, Woes. But my favorite post comes from Lee, who's an amazing account. We are appalled by the vile and inexcusable language revealed in the Politico article published today. Such behavior is disgraceful, unbecoming of any Visigoth, and those involved must immediately resign from all positions, and we call for the gates of Toledo to be opened at once.
I mean, the guy's a gem machine. What can you say? It's couldn't. I couldn't have done that. I've known Lee a long time. I still don't know how he does it. I mean,
That's
he
perfect.
never misses. Never misses. But I mean, you learned, and to the Kansas young Republicans that have been, I guess their group has been suspended. Give us a call. We're here. Anyone got anything else?
It's just such a disaster, bro. Like but anybody want to talk about what JD Vance's response was to this?
Do we have JD's tweet at the ready?
Yeah, it was a perfect response. It was exactly the tone that we needed. It's him keeping the pressure on, making sure nobody forgets what we're up against, especially with the Jay Jones thing, because with the 12-second news cycle and everyone's attention span being measured in nanoseconds. Keep making sure that people are focused at least for a couple of days on this stuff is way more important than just hitting those notes. And JD Vance hits the beat pretty well on this one.
He says, "This is far worse than anything said in a college group chat. And the guy who said it could become the AG of Virginia. I refuse to join in the pearl clutching when powerful people call for political violence." And this was about killing a bunch of
Jay
white
Jones.
kids. Yep.
Yeah, Jay Jones, and threatening I think he was, I forget who he was in the Virginia House, but he had a couple of nice, very cute white children who from an interview I saw the other day from somebody who was in the Virginia House, said that Jay Jones would have known these kids. These kids would have been around the state house. Jay Jones would have interacted with these kids. And he called for their death. He said that, I think he said, if there was Hitler and Stalin and this guy, I can't remember what his name is, and I had 2 bullets, I'd shoot this guy twice.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it looking into when you see photos of Jones and his dark, beady eyes. Like a lot of these people, like we meme about how the progressives want to kill us and how they're possessed by demons, but a lot of them actually are. They're soulless people who only see the pursuit of their own power as the only good that can come from this world, almost as if they're rebelling against the world for the crime of being born. It's true, like the depth of the evil that the progressives, and I'm sure that many in the GOP have in their souls, is one that is so cartoonish that it strains credulity.
Yeah, one thing I want to bring up, and thank God for Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about it, but everyone needs to remember this. George Santos literally did nothing, right? He was temporarily inconvenient for a lot of the people in power, literally just for what, like a news cycle, so like less than 24 hours. He's on 45 days of solitary confinement. He is allowed out of his cell 1 hour a week. He is not allowed any commissary. His cell does not have a window. And it is dark 12 hours a day. He's not allowed to get mail when he's in solitary confinement, nor is he allowed to send anything. Oh, sorry, he can send anything, but he can't receive anything. Right? He's being tortured. Solitary confinement is torture. So just know that these are the people If we lose, this is what they'll do to you when Trump is in power. What do you think they'll do to you when he's not? When our guys are not? You'll beg for solitary confinement, because I'm sure they would like nothing better than to make you beg for it. And think about that. They are torturing a human being, a congressman, for even the slightest inconvenience, but most importantly, being on the other team, your team. So just think about that. Think about it often.
The I don't know how many people know this, but Tucker's been live streaming at 6 Eastern on Wednesdays, and he pretty much does a monologue, does a couple of interviews, talks about the news of the day. And he was watching a video of the Virginia governor debate with Democratic Representative Abigail Spanberger. Ooh, let me see. Do I have it here? There we go. And who is former CIA, and against Virginia, Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Governor Winsome Earl Sears, who is like exactly what the GOP wants. A middle of the road black woman to run for governor. But Winsome Earl Sears, confronted on stage during the debate Miss Abigail Spanberger. Damn it, my bell won't work. Thank you. And said, will you please denounce Jay Jones's tweets talking about killing these children? And she just stared straight ahead, would not say anything. And you're just looking at that profile of that, that sail on her face. And you're just like, no, you don't. Does anybody in this administration get the fact that they want us dead? They want us dead.
I mean, J.D. Vance seems to.
Yeah, well, I mean, every time you bring up J.D. Vance and every time he says something, based like he did there, or, he said that, big balls should be rehired, even though he had literally attacked J.D. Vance's wife, and J.D. Vance is like, yeah, I don't care, you should still be rehired. All people are going to scream is my Palantir and my Peter Thiel. So I guess it doesn't really matter what that JD Vance, apparently, to most people, there's no one there that's
I think
on
it's
our
really
side.
interesting, the people that counter signal JD Vance. Like, it's interesting who they cluster, because they also attack Tucker. The same people. If somebody's critical of JD Vance, they'll also be critical of Tucker. They'll also be like, oh, conspiracy theory. Like, he's gone off the deep end, man. He's gone too far. Then they'll take time out of their day to criticize Candace, a black woman that shouldn't matter to any of us. Like, if you have to like come out on a timeline to tell us how much you hate Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and JD Vance, they're also the same people that, ironically, because it's a joke, right, stumped for Gavin Newsom, told us Kamala Harris was like better than Trump, Laura Loomer's your friend. Like, it's all the same people, right? And they all have the same patterns of behavior, right? It's really important to not look at like what issues they talk about, whatever, but look at who they're attacking and just keep a mental log of that. And then when you see events play out and go, huh, well, that's really cool. No, I didn't expect that from like Vance or Trump or whatever, or Tucker. Just keep that in mind. And you just keep a tally of everybody that you saw counter signaling them and talking shit about them. And you'll see this logarithmic pattern develop over time. Right? Everybody needs to keep track of what everybody does, not in like a creepy way, but when you see posts, just remember, and this way you can go back and see like, oh, well, what have these guys also been criticizing? And then once you start looking back, all of a sudden a theme emerges. And it makes our political environment much easier to sort through.
Yeah, and these people are also mysteriously starting to be boosted by more mainstream voices. So
Interesting.
a big head scratcher on that one. But
yeah, it's almost like they elevate the people that they want to fight.
Right. But the thing with Spamberger is another perfect contrast to our previous story with the young Republicans.
Is that the one that's the president of Mexico?
No, but that is also an every single time thing.
Well, they definitely have
Spangenberg
the same. They
on the
definitely have the
time
same
bomb.
profile.
Yeah, the dorsal fin.
Yeah, I mean this is the perfect contrast, right? Like the young Republicans throw their people under the bus for leaked chats, and no leftist, no Democrat is going to condemn a man who is wishing for the deaths of another person's children to affect what he believes is proper political change. You know, there's not much more to be said about that.
And all of these movements championed by dorsal fin maximizers, dorsal maxers. Galatians.
Hey, my grandparents, my great grandparents escaped out of there to get the hell away from them. In a good time too, 1910 and 1911 respectively.
I got to figure out a better name for them because dorsal fin is like already too many syllables.
Anybody have anything else to say about our greatest enemy, which will always be the conservatives?
No.
Oh,
All right, going to move on.
Actually,
Looks
real
like
quick,
this.
just remember, the left is never going to listen to you. It doesn't matter what you say to the left. It doesn't matter. So if you know your bullets don't hurt the left, they do hurt fake people on the right. These people rely on sliding underneath the radar of opinion of other right-wingers. All right. So our bullets actually right now in this stage do much more damage to fake right-wingers. Right? These people draft off the conservatives draft off your energy. They siphon it off. Right? And then they stab you in the back. Every single time. Read Uncle A's book, his book that's famous has 2 books inside of it. I believe the second book starts at chapter 11, 10 or 11. And he lays this out in painstaking detail. And as you read it, you would be like, it sounds like it was written today. Because the people that kept on throwing them under the bus, the people that ran to the left to smear them, the people that drafted off their energy to stab them in the back, it was the conservatives, not the left, the conservatives. The conservatives are happy with the status quo. You are a bigger threat to them than the left.
Yeah, Mandrill, what's the line about the Social Democrats?
Who betrayed us? The Social Democrats.
Lockwood in the chat here says, believe it or not, Spanberger is not just married to one. And I just looked her up and I can't find any evidence in her early life. So I'll do the mea culpa and say, yeah, I was wrong about that. But that makes it even worse because that just means you're a traitor.
Well,
So
we
I want to
also
see
know
ancestry.com.
We also know that Wikipedia has started purging the early life checks so that, it's harder to find.
Yeah,
And
but
she's a CIA agent.
Impossible. It's not impossible.
People from Red Bank, New Jersey, whose fathers are police officers and mothers are nurses. That's not typical of Red Bank. Anyone who knows anything about Red Bank. So I'm not saying I'm not saying it's impossible. What I am saying is that it doesn't sound right.
Especially, you wait. So you're telling me the backstory of a CIA officer doesn't sound right?
Well, all right. Okay, let's move on to the next story we have here, and it couldn't be any better because I believe I believe the No Kings 2.0 protest is scheduled for this Saturday, and they've chosen their color. Wear yellow, show up, show out. Rejecting kings since 17s. They're do you know that they represent the founding fathers? Do you know that they represent the men that stormed the beach at Normandy?
They can't make up their minds. Is it 1776 or 1619? I can't fucking keep track with these people.
But they're wearing yellow. And what's funny is I did not know that until right before we went live that they had picked yellow. And I just had to laugh because I know historically what yellow what yellow when it comes to politics and when it comes to this milieu normally signifies. But I'll let you gentlemen talk about this if you wish.
Sure. So this is very interesting that they chose yellow because, for those who may not be on Twitter, there was a clip of a certain NGO apparatchik who was talking on a live call or whatever, Zoom call, and he was basically saying, well, we took about an hour to pick our colors basically, and we were looking at yellow, but we might also choose purple because it's like bipartisanship and all of that. It's just all of the what is this, right? What's the point, right? This is a color revolution, or at least an attempt at one. This is prepping for, if not 2026, it's certainly prepping for 2028. It's establishing early the proper color to use in order to solidify and get unified a resistance movement, basically. That's what it is. And of course, the black and yellow is famous for being very ANCAP, kind of the 1776 vibe, very libertarian. It's just, yeah. I can't believe it took them an hour to figure this out.
It's also the color of like historic raincoats, which a lot of pervs would wear when they were flashing little kids. I think there's a correlation there too.
It's also interesting that that's the color of the gilet jaune, which raged for quite a long time. I don't know what they think the significance of yellow is here, but I would be very interested to hear their thought process when deciding on this particular color.
Well, I think it's
also the color of a crown, so it's like it's just like, why? It doesn't make sense. Why would you pick the color of the thing that you're opposing?
There's a tremendous amount of money behind behind this organization. I believe very recently.
Oh, Indivisible. Indivisible is clearly USAID has not stopped them from getting money. I mean, Indivisible is, they are, and they're, Antifa is the one who wants to burn it all down. Indivisible is the one who wants to make it even more illegal for you to be right wing, to the point where you will be executed for being right wing.
Yeah, they posted. What was it? Somebody posted this on the timeline. I'm trying to go back and find it while we're discussing. But they posted a funding breakdown of this organization, and was it Zero Hedge? It might have been Zero Hedge that had it. But the amount of money going to this organization is insane. Right? We're talking like hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. And think it's like 6 billionaires that are behind it. Oh, I can't find it. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But yeah, it is a crazy amount of funding. Like, these people are legitimately, like, if you wanted to finance a color revolution, like, we send, like, this is more money than we send, like, revolutionaries and like tin pot dictators, you know, that we want a regime change. We probably flipped Ukraine for less money than this. It's a serious amount of funding.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
looks like
it's fun-
they're actually going to have to start footing the bill themselves rather than getting it from our tax dollars through USAID, which is nice. But it's also interesting that every No Kings protest that I've seen, and I'm in a very blue area, has been populated almost entirely by olds. And I wonder if that's going to start changing once they're able to pay the youth to show up.
Well, of course it is. But remember, the strategy of the left is intersectional, and therefore they always have these multiple sections of society. It's not just going to be the old libtard boomers who show up. It's going to be the ethnic youth, I should say, who's going to be showing up in conjunction, right? If they're not actually part of the same protest, or if one of the No Kings is largely peaceful, there will be the mostly peaceful protests going on, burning down buildings and blowing up cars on the side, and then the usual, inner city denizens doing what they do at the same time because they'll be ginned up. So, like, all of this stuff it's not hard to figure out what the enemy's game plan is. It's the same game plan as they ran in the 60s. It's the same game plan that they had in 2020, right?
Well, remember, I'm sorry, Mandrill. Please finish.
No, I was just gonna say it's the same game plan. It's just you got to stop it, right? You just have to find what's the one or couple of levers you got to pull in order to get, one of these little avenues of power acquisition not actually functional, and then the whole thing collapses because every single avenue of these things has to work, right? The strategy in conjunction only works if every single one is actually, successful. Basically, that's how tenuous this is.
Well, let's remember in 2017 when Trump got elected, they had the Pussy Hat March, and that was a bunch of middle-aged and old people marching on Washington. And whenever they had a march leading up to 2020, it was the same thing, a bunch of old people. Then what happened in 2020? It wasn't old people, was it? So everybody who's saying, "Oh, this is just boomers," well, it was 5 fucking years ago. Do you not remember this? This is the last 10 years of history. Do you not remember the last 10 years of history? I mean, I understand there are some very young people in the audience and who are probably still in high school and maybe not paying attention. But, I'm old enough to remember 10 years ago. And this is the way it started. A bunch of boomers on the street culminating in a fucking color revolution in 2020 and up to 40 Americans being murdered in the streets by these people.
Yep. What? Once the paychecks start coming, all of a sudden the ranks get really full, and it won't be boomers. And I believe the DOJ announced today a large amount of indictments were filed. I believe almost 1,000 or over 1,000, something like that, for Antifa members, or basically for the Antifa organization. But yeah, the people behind this, I mean, we're talking like, what's his name? Soros is only in for 50 billion. Gates, 50 million, 70 million. What's his name? Warren Buffett, 200. So already over 300 million. And there's 2 more people that I can't remember, right? That were each within like 70, 80 million. Right. So this is like $1/3 billion just to fuck shit up right now. Right. No Kings just appeared when ICE hit the streets. And now they have a third of a billion. And I know, Pete, you and I talked about this in the Inquisition, but everybody makes fun of the fact that these people had a little meeting that took an hour long just for them to decide on a color on a Zoom call. These people, like, yeah, that's funny. Haha, that they took an hour to decide on a color. Leftists are so dumb. Da 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 da. Literally, like, we've heard it all before, but what no one bothered to realize, or I mean, think about it, is that this should terrify the fuck out of you. These people are well funded. They are well organized. They are a cohesive, defined group with objectives, short and long-term roadmaps to meet those objectives. Right? They can delegate. I mean, we can't delegate shit, but just to highlight, they can take very large tasks and break those tasks down to, I don't know, 20, 50, 100 people, however many individual people it takes whose cumulative effort completes that task. They can do that. They can delegate the workload. They can assign project managers to oversee that large task that is broken up and delegated to all those people, that those people are actually working cohesively, can manage them. It's a level of organization that, frankly, the right can't even dream of. So however cute that it may be that they take an hour to decide on a color, and how much smarter and better and cooler we think we are because we don't do that. We don't do things by committee, things like that. These people have a level of organization that should scare us, not make us laugh. And if it's making you laugh, that means you don't understand how serious it is.
Right.
Frankly, you don't know what time it is.
Right. And of course, just because they're taking an hour on a Zoom call right now, we have 3 years before the next presidential election cycle. So they have plenty of time. Plenty of time.
The next items on their to-do list after pick a color is fuck up your life and fuck up the lives of people you care about. That's item number 2 and 3 on their to-do list. So yeah, it's funny that they took an hour to get through item 1. Go ahead, Mandrill. Sorry about that.
Nope. I just said they have plenty of time. That's it. They got 3 years to figure out a game plan and to make all of these little checkpoints actually come together and be completed. So.
All right. I think before we move on to the next topic, should probably knock out some super chats here. So if we're ready for that, first super chat on the docket is Robert of Fixum. My sleep paralysis demon is just Pete telling me about his new H&K PSG-1, knowing I cannot get out of bed to look at it. Better than those gay machine elves, I guess, but not by much, though. Look, right now you can't get an HK PSG-1 for less than $40,000. There's no way you're ever going to see me with one of those. Solid Snake 1964. Evening, gents. How the leak chat is so shocking to people is insane. It's literally the group chats every young guy is in, and I've heard far worse in COD lobbies. My own mother agrees that it's dumb to pearl clutch. She knows what I've said in a Black Ops 1 lobby, that's for sure. I mean, yeah, this is... What do you gamers think?
I mean, Solid Snake, you kiss your mother with that mouth?
This may be the name of the night for a super chat. Skid marks on my bedtime onesie butt flap groiper.
If groiper wasn't on the end of that, that would be a left-wing fetishist.
Well, $7 Canadian. What's that? 20 cents? Please pray for the ostriches up here in British Columbia, bros. We will.
Yeah, which I know that your government is I don't insane isn't the word. You have a demon government, but are there ethnic groups also participating in eating the ostriches, or is it just the culling?
I think they're eating the dogs and eating the cats.
I just think it's funny. I got a mental visual of an ostrich burying its head in the sand as it was being attacked by a Haitian.
So I'll just an aside here. A friend of mine who appears on the show all the time, John Fieldhouse, mentioned that said that there was in the 1990s, the 1980s and 1990s in Huntsville, Alabama. Apparently, there was a movement to try to make the emu the next American chicken. For a while, every redneck with 2 acres raised them on their front lawns. He said Madison County back in the day didn't have any zoning laws outside of the city limits. There were kids whose fathers were NASA engineers that were raising livestock as a hobby, and some of that livestock was emus. He told me that story, and I was about as quiet as you guys are right now, because I didn't want to believe it.
That's amazing. We need to do more livestock raising. Individual livestock raising needs to be mainstreamed again, not just chickens.
Emu eggs are pretty great. Their meat is red. It's almost like beef.
Really?
That's true for a lot of birds.
Yeah, the pigeon, which they eat in Britain and their colonies, is red too. Yeah. All right,
And
Christopher
it's delicious.
Burks. And it's delicious, yeah. Christopher Burks, $2 super chat. In the end, we win. It's just that road. We just gotta haul ass down it and do everything we can in the meantime to make sure that road is as short a trip as possible. Paul W. Hall, super chat, $5 says, "Congrats on the 100th episode, gentlemen." Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah.
I love our producer.
We have the best producer. City Break Dancer Man for $5. The salute. Thank you, sir. Seasider is getting in here late. $10 super chat with the salute. Thank you. Dawn Browning, who is here every week with $20 Australian. Didn't you guys fight a war against emus?
Yes, they did.
And they lost.
And they lost.
Go look up the Emu Wars sometime and read that. It's absolutely insane. She sends a super sticker, which is a dancing pear saying, "You are amazing." Thank you. Baron Gimli von Garden, $5 super chat. Thank you very much. Found 9 members to start a chapter with. We'll send the email to Old Glory Club this weekend.
Real Americans.
That's
absolutely
that's awesome. That's just what motivation. Jackson Walker, $5 super chat with a salute. Thank you, friend. Zenrath, $25 super chat. Thank you for the East Coast Forum, gentlemen. We are standing by and ready to meet many new friends in the midst of the very best the East Coast has to offer. I wish I could be there, guys. Wish I could be there. Anonymous sends us $5. I think the larger goal of the leaks was to get our guys out of the path to elected power. They are trying to scare away the basemen we need. And if not elected power, at least to appointed power, because I think fellow OGC member Clossington said that the one of the ways young Republicans is a path to staffers and positions like that. Kyle Linskog, $10, says, I should think that the voter registration could be used both ways, i.e., if your registration was obtained under the wrong circumstances, your vote won't count. Well, in a perfect world, they wouldn't be getting anywhere near a voting booth. Maple Copperhead, $5. Salute, gentlemen. Salute back at you. Someone stole my bike for $5. I bet you I can tell you what that someone looks like. He says, Godspeed, gentlemen.
That's another great username.
Here we go. Kyle Linskog again for $10. Nope, that's the same one. Sorry. Anonymous for $5. Well, I went backwards. Forgive me, gentlemen. Sorry. Sean B for $20. An NBC article reported that Middle Eastern intermediaries are attempting to convince the Trump administration not to go after Maduro. The admin official they spoke with refused to say which country beyond that they are allies.
It's those Dan Qataris again, Pete. I'm telling you, those Dan Qataris, always with the Qatari influence.
Well, I mean, they are intermediaries in that Netanyahu sends them money and then they send money to Hamas for Netanyahu. That sounds like an intermediary to me.
Hey, they're just a middleman, okay?
Riker Ruiz, $10. Those conservative those cowardly traitor conservatives are no different than the commies to me. I hope their cowardice is the last thing on their minds when they are alone in hospice abused by some subcontinental. You want them to make it that long?
Rough.
Chansey for $15 super chat. Whatever happened to honor among thieves? If you're working outside the system, no matter the cause, you must know how to keep secrets. If you're doing dirt with people, shut the fuck up. Ski Bum 220 with a $50 super chat. Man, I wish we still had damn it. With a salute. Thank you, Ski Bum. We appreciate you. Zenrath, $5 super chat. Super chat tax for poor grammar. Inexcusable, really.
See, that's a man of honor.
Kyle Linskog for $10. Another super chat. Thank you, Kyle. The left did a good job infiltrating soccer. Look at any MLS game or minor league soccer game. The visible fans are all leftist freaks. It's clear none of them have ever kicked a soccer ball.
Yeah, there's actually a really interesting thing about professional.
What the fuck is a soccer ball?
Isn't that like a third world hobby? Third world sport? I don't know.
There was a really good article on Substack, and damned if I'll be able to remember who wrote it, about how leftists basically took over all sports, which is why they became so black overrepresented. And white guys have the same problem and have had the same problem in professional sports that they're starting to have now in white collar jobs with just rank discrimination. Meritocracy really did die with the Civil Rights Act.
We still have hockey and lacrosse. Dawn Browning, $100 Australian dollars. Congratulations. Don't mention emus again. Solid Snake 1964, $2 super chat says, you don't understand. I got it from my mother. Phil's Persona, $20 with a salute. Thank you, sir. Bolero 393, $10 super chat. Did I miss something about a group chat leak? I was thinking about Charlie Kirk, Irina Zaruska, Austin Metcalf, and a VA attorney general candidate wishing death on children of his opponent. Yeah, I mean, I get it, man. I get it. That's the thing. These people, these GOP people think they're going to win with words, while our people are getting mowed down and stabbed in the heart and Yeah, and threaten that their children will be murdered in front of them. And the people who are doing it think it's funny. And apparently the GOP thinks that mean words and, showing that you don't put up with mean words is going to make them not want to shoot them. Well, for the sake of your families, I hope you're right. Capitalismo with a $10 super chat. Salute, clipping you, calling me a legend.
Frogs help friends. Simple
Do
as.
it, man. Do it. Just don't clip any coins, please. All right. Speaking of clipping coins, let's jump to. I wanted to get Stormy on here tonight for this particular one. And Stormy, I know you can go on for a long time about this, but this is a so gold is at an all-time high, silver is at an all-time high, and I think people who came out of libertarianism can think that, well, that's because people aren't trusting in the dollar. There's no faith in the American dollar. What say you about these historic gold prices?
Well, what are the libertarians' track record on being correct about anything?
Well, I mean, I think Peter Schiff has lost his investors probably, $1 trillion in the last 15 years. So,
yeah, but somehow people keep platforming him. He's literally like Jim Cramer, but slides under the radar. Right?
Yeah, still waiting for Schiff's prediction that Bitcoin's going to zero to come true.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is that Bitcoin is actually something that I do want to talk about, because what's the most telling about what you have going on is that you have silver going up a ton, you have gold going up a ton. Why not Bitcoin? If the libertarians were right, Bitcoin would be going up too, but why not? It's because they're not right. You don't have a flight to safety. That's not what's happening. Right? So when people are scared in markets, right, and they think that a large correction is going to happen, or a large downturn, that's what I mean, is going to happen, they run to safe haven assets. Safe haven assets are usually treasury bonds, gold, other precious metals, or Bitcoin. So how come we only see it in these two precious metals, not treasury bonds and not Bitcoin? Because that tells you it's not a money problem. It's a gold and silver problem. Because what also has been blowing out, the chart looks much more attractive than that gold chart, is the secure overnight funding rate, right? The interest rate paid on deposits, right? Which tells you that there is a liquidity crisis brewing. And the most interesting silver chart, let me see if I can pull one up, is the lease, right? So precious metal dealers like the London Bullion and Metals Exchange, London Bullion Metals Association, right, takes your silver and your gold and leases it out. Right, so when the lease rates spike up, it means they don't have any to cover the spread. And why would they not have any? Well, that's because they've been using fake dollars, derivative dollars. We were talking earlier off the stream before we got started, and I mentioned to you boys about the offshore dollar, right? The euro dollar, and how it is basically fake dollars printed when international or offshore banks, foreign banks, lend in dollars. which they shouldn't be doing because they're not stacking their reserves full of treasuries. So these are hypothecated fake dollars, not real dollars. Right? But they are used to leverage up or suppress the price of commodities. But we've been slowly strangling this offshore dollar system because it's not actually controlled by us. If offshore banks can print as many dollars they want by issuing as many dollar-denominated loans that they want, then we really don't have control over the US monetary system. Now, do we? So this is why SOFR was introduced, right? Because the reserve rate, anyway, actually, I'm getting way far afield. This will take a tremendous amount of fucking time. When you saw all of the gold fleeing from London to the US, this is the same thing as that, right? Because it's not everyone rushing to gold to go buy gold. Yes, some people are, right? But that's not what's driving the price action. What's driving the price action is who is buying the gold, right? And the answer to that question is central banks, right? The price of gold and silver is moving because central banks are the ones doing the buying. And why would a central bank be loading up its balance sheet with gold, right? For the same reason we have to bail out Argentina, because Argentina has sent all of its gold away and it didn't have any gold. Right? You are watching the beginning of a sovereign debt collapse. Right? I can maybe go into it at length in another episode or something like just dedicated to that, because it does take a little bit, right? But the central banks of a lot of countries are going to go bust. Their currencies have already started. They're the ones rushing to buy the gold and the silver, because when their currency collapses, which it will, they are going to have to show the world that they have hard assets. Say, look at all the gold we have. We are going to be issuing our new currency backed by all of the gold in our vaults. And somebody's going to run back, well, but China's been buying all the gold, and India's been buying all the gold. Nigga, you can add China and India and Russia together, times it by 3, and that's how much gold we say we have. The number of the tons that we actually have is significantly more than that. Right? They are vying for their position in the next Bretton Woods. What comes after? Right? Who sets the international monetary order as this one breaks? That does not mean the dollar in your pocket is going away or anything bad is going to happen to it. In fact, it's going to get a hell of a lot stronger as these currencies die. Right? You have to separate the onshore dollar, the one you and I spend, dear listener, and the one that is used by countries to trade with other countries.
Real quick before we get away from what you were just saying, is this what they call the dollar milkshake theory?
Yes, yes it is. When SOFR started blowing out to the upside as LIBOR didn't move an inch, it became no longer a theory. It became dollar milkshake fact. And 90%, and this is the dangerous thing is, so I've had this conversation with former Federal Reserve governors. I've had this conversation with heads of investment banks, big ones. And they don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Right. So the problem is, yeah, right. Besant, however, does. Besant is the probably every time I lose faith, if Scott Bessent ever leaves the government, that is when I will turn bearish on the Trump administration. All that matters is Scott Bessent. Everything else is just fucking geopolitical foreplay. It doesn't matter. This is the big game afoot, right? The restructuring and reordering of the economic system going forward, right? Scott Bessent's the most important pick. He's the most important person in the administration. He's smart as fuck. Actually, like two of the smartest people I know worked for him, or one worked with him and one worked for him. And they said that Scott Bessent is the smartest person they've ever met. So finally, like at a time where we're going into a crisis, the rest of the world's going to have a much bigger crisis than we are. It'll be Great Depression stuff at home, and it'll be far, far worse abroad. Yeah, imagine African countries having a currency collapse, or India having a currency collapse. It's the currency medium of exchange that is breaking. All right, so global supply chains are going to come apart more than they already are. There's like 2 billion people on the planet that depend upon food from somewhere else that isn't where they live to live. That's going to get problematic. So, hey, some of us may actually get our wish. I don't know if we can chalk up 1 billion, but maybe we can come close.
What's just for the listeners who might not be aware of what this milkshake theory is, can you give us a very brief explanation for the benefit of our audience?
Okay. Right, there are $2 that exist in the world. All right, there's $1 that we spend at home. And then there is this monstrosity that lives offshore that was created out of the Marshall Plan. All right. If you notice that we are the only country in the history of countries that have ever done war, we're the only ones that never have had massive inflation and an economic, basically, depression afterwards. Every country in the history of the world that's ever done war at any scale has had huge economic fallouts post that conflict. But not America. Not only did we not have an economic, disaster, we had an economic boom. Not only did we get no inflation, but we got like 20 years of golden, just amazing time to be alive and earn money. The reason this is because we bailed out Europe. Europe was a bombed out shithole. UK was a bombed out shithole. The interest rate that you pay on money is generally related to how much of a shithole your country is, right? Like if the country is full of a bunch of people on bread lines, the interest rate to lend money is going to be pretty high because the chances of you defaulting and not being able to pay it is higher. So if interest rates would be what they were supposed to be, right, like 15, 20%, Europe would never have been rebuilt. Just simply the credit wouldn't be there. And that's a real problem when you have a Soviet superstate next door that's fresh off the back of winning a major war and has a ton of excess people under military arms. That's bad. All right, because communist revolutionaries can do well in all types of climates. But a bombed out shithole, that's probably their favorite. They love bombed out shitholes. So in order to stop this, we had to rebuild Europe. Did we give them a bunch of our gold to do it? No. Did we print a bunch of money to rebuild it? No. Remember, no inflation. What do we give Europe? We gave the Bank of England the ability to lend money in dollars, right? So an English bank can issue a dollar-denominated loan. And what that does is effectively prints new dollars right? If I loan Pete $100 million, I have effectively just printed $100 million. So this was supposed to go to the Bank of England. Some Jeffrey Epstein type shit happened, and it went to a private bank instead. I won't get into who owns that private bank, but whatever. Within a decade, being able to lend money at 3%, 4%, when everyone else around you is only able to lend money at 15, 20%. This is a license to print money. Like, not like figuratively, like it's a money fountain for you. So within a very short amount of time, this bank stitched up most of the other banks in the UK. Right now we're into the 60s. And by the end of the 60s, they stitched up most of the banks, at least majority shareholders, on the continent. Right? Because the dollar milkshake theory doesn't actually tell anybody how this happened, which is really important. So this is why I'm telling you this. Because once you know how it happened and what happened, the theory explains itself. So rather than get into a bunch of arcane economics, it's just much easier to tell you the story. Right? So basically, we left a money printer in Europe. And that money printer grew into other money printers as these banks that were in Europe became international. Right? So when HSBC Hong Kong wants to, spin up $100 million credit line for some Indonesian rice wholesaler to go to India and buy $100 million of the rice, they just click a button, boop, $100 million. But did they put any more treasuries in their reserves? No, they did not. So where did this $100 million come from? That's those dollars. They're fake dollars, hypothecated dollars. And this system works great. Has done for 30 years. You can arguably say it is the wind beneath the wings of globalization. Because if you were a Indonesian rice wholesaler or whatever, and you went to the bank and you said, hey, I would like a loan, they'll say, all right, well, it's 15%. Because Indonesia is a bombed out shithole too. Or you can borrow the same amount of money in dollars, it's only 3%. What are you going to do? Well, you're going to take that loan in dollars, and it's going to be great. Because our entire lifetimes, right, the old shrooms like Pete and I, every single quarter, the Federal Reserve would lower the interest rate. And each time the interest rate would lower, this Indonesian guy and his Indonesian bucks got stronger. So that means not only did his monthly payment go down because the interest rate just went down, but his currency that he had to swap into dollars to pay that loan, well, his currency got stronger. Less Indonesian bucks to swap for a dollar. And then the rate would lower again and again and again and again, and has done for 30 years. That's globalization. That's where all these shithole countries exploded in size. None of it's real. Right? And now it's all coming to an end. Because that system works out great if the interest rates keep getting lower and lower and lower. But what happens if the interest rates go up? Well, that's a horse of a different color. Because when interest rates go up, his currency goes down. And you can look back in the charts, look at Forex charts, every time the Fed raised interest rates the last 3 years. You watch every foreign currency collapse. Just like it's like a slinky going down the stairs. Right? A leg down, a leg down, a leg down. Because now that Indonesian wholesaler guy, well, now it takes more Indonesian bucks to pay that loan. Right? It takes 10 Indonesian bucks for a dollar instead of 5 Indonesian bucks. So he has to spend more money of his money to turn into dollars. And the amount of dollars that his monthly payment is just went up. He's getting squeezed both ways. What was once the wind beneath his little Indonesian wings is now a millstone around his neck, and he's drowning. Right? And then after he drowns, The banks that lent him that money, well, they'll be drowning too. Well, what happens after that? What happens when the banks start going under? Well, now the central bank has to bail them out, but they're suffering from the same problem too. Well, now the central banks are drowning, and they're all clamoring for gold. And that is a much easier way to explain the dollar milkshake theory. Because when the dollar decides to increase its rate, it sucks the world dry of money. Because even though the dollars that were printed were fake printed, and trust me, there's a lot of them. There's 9 of those fake dollars out there in the world for every $1 that's real here. You can look it up. So those fake dollars equal real liquidity, right? Because credit is money. So we are draining every time we raise interest rates. And remember that SOFR chart, secure overnight funding rate, that I mentioned earlier when we started talking, or when I started running my mouth for a really long time, which I have done. As that goes up, we drain the world of credit. They can't lend anymore because it's expensive now to lend because we have raised the interest rates. And we suck the world dry of credit at the same time as they are struggling to stay above water. We are draining their milkshake dry. When Jerome Powell first raised interest rates 50 bips in the summer of 2018, was it 2018, 2019? Right? Half a percentage point. Federal Reserve raised the interest rate half a percentage point. And we drained the world of $4 trillion of capital in a month. Now look at that SOFR chart again, and you'll get the picture. And that's why gold is going up. And that's why silver is going up. And that's why Bitcoin's not, and treasuries are not. That's why Peter Schiff is always fucking wrong about everything. That's why every libertarian is wrong about everything. Because they know nothing about how money actually works outside the borders of the continental United States. Which means they don't know fuck all about how money works at all.
End of rant.
Oh, and the good news is, every other time we've had a financial crash, the people in charge have chosen themselves. You can either get inflation or deflation. It's the only way out, right? Deflation hurts rich people. Inflation hurts poor people. And they've chosen their own pocketbooks every single time over yours. Except this time they can't. Because it's their own pocketbook that's causing the problem. So for a very first time in a long time, you're probably going to get asset price deflation. A lot of it. Right? So instead of stock, yes, stocks and things like that are going to go down, but everything else is going to go down. And it'll stay down. Because in past times, when there was economic crashes, when there were stock market crashes, it allowed regular people to buy in on the cheap. But since we bail everything out all the time, now by printing more monies, that hasn't been possible. And it's been our young people that have basically taken it on the chin each and every time. This time's going to be a little bit different. So keep your powder dry, because you'll need it soon. You'll see once in a lifetime deals. And the more money you have sitting on the sidelines, not sitting in money, like that's dumb. We still have 5%, 6% inflation. That would be retarded, right? Put in gold or treasury bonds or whatever. But I just put it in fucking gold, whatever. Doesn't matter. But not physical gold, because like you can't go run and sell physical gold like tomorrow and not get scalped by some happy merchant. Right? So just keep the money liquid, able to be spent, and you'll capture phenomenal deals, like the kind that can set you up for a long time.
All right.
Yeah, this is so. This is good, not just for the gold and silver bugs.
Now, the gold and silver thing, if you want to know how long that's going to continue and at the rate it's going to go, don't look at any chart except for the secure overnight funding chart, right? That and the repo, the Fed's reverse repo facility. This is a credit problem. It's not a investors are scared problem. Sorry, that was a really long rant. My bad.
Okay.
Knew it was going to happen. I asked anyway.
Sorry, man. I tried. I really tried.
It's all good, brother. All right.
It's just we have to explain it quickly.
We have a few super chats to finish up, but we got one last story to talk about here. And to everyone's shock, I know that there's a Charlie Kirk billboard that has been defaced. So, yeah, I mean, the blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church. This is what it wrote. Charlie Kirk, 1993 to 2025. His name is scratched out. It says spray painted, "Smash Fascism," and it's paid for by crossed out, and it says "Stand up, fight back," and his face has been removed. So, yeah, if you want to know why conservatives are the enemy, it's because the person who did this, who defaced this, they want you to just have a nice little conversation with them, while that person is going to kill you. And please, don't say any naughty words. Don't have a naughty opinion. Do not do not contradict the post-war consensus. Please do not have the same opinions that your great-grandfather and grandfather did. Or else you can't be a young Republican.
Yeah, this is exactly what Sam Hyde was saying. If you are white Christian male, you are Charlie Kirk. They see all white. I mean, they see all whites really as fascist in this framing, but especially white Christians. It's it couldn't be more obvious what we're up against right now. And so the conservatives still doing their paw to the progressive ratchet routine should remove all doubt as to what they are. They're either idiots or they're traitors, and either way, they have to go.
I mean, this just tells you, this whole response, this billboard defacement just tells you everything you need to know. Everything you need to know. They killed him, and they still think that the time of mourning, whatever you want to call it, that's basically over, if it ever existed in their mind. That there's nothing that Charlie Kirk can do to deserve having his little billboard, right? That's the whole thing. Charlie Kirk is just persona non grata to them just for being Charlie Kirk, and the same goes for everybody who might have agreed.
Actually get them to tolerate you. You are allowed to be a white man and still exist. You just have to castrate yourself. No big deal.
Right.
So this is kind of like an anecdote for the whole conservative movement. It's time to either chop your dick off or fight. And hopefully all of the young Republican people that are still in that organization choose chop your dick off, because you're too dumb to exist in the gene pool.
We have a ways to go before some people get it, which is why you shouldn't be sitting there worried about waking up normies. It's just not, it's not helpful. You want people who get it. You wake up normies so that they can know how the world works and they can personally, especially if you know them and you care about them, so that they can do their best to play self-defense for what comes in the future. But when it comes to what's more important is you have to find people who think like you, look like you, talk like you, believe what you do, and organize with them and make sure that they see what you see. You're not going to get anywhere with people who are just waiting for you to say something that they can pounce on. Which is why you have to choose your, which is why waking up normies is another bad idea. They're going to turn on you. They will eventually, you're going to say something that's going to turn on you. You only want people like you. You only want to side with and trust people who are like you and who hold the same opinions as you. That's my take. You know, not saying disown normies, disown your family because, you know, they may be Christian Zionists. That's fucking stupid. But be careful what you say around them.
And we are saying join the Old Glory Club.
That's it. All right. Let me get these last 3 super chats and we will get out of here. Kylan Skog, once again, for $10 says, if you make fun of soccer, you were never good at soccer. That's a tremendous loss of yours.
Is it? Is it really?
I remember I was like 10 years old putting on my hockey equipment to go play and thinking to myself, that's when I realized that the reason why soccer was so popular in like poor countries is because all you had to do was buy a ball and not shin guards and hockey pants and skates and shoulder pads and chest protector and gloves and elbow pads and a helmet and a mask and a mouthpiece. No, all you really need to do is like have a ball made out of cow shit or something, and you can kick it around for 5 minutes, you know, for 5 minutes. Mark Metz, $5 super chat. Set my alarm off frying a steak. In defense, I thought it was the stream, but I should pay penance for my basketball American response time. I know Mark, he's a good guy. Son of Haster, $5. Congratulations on 100 episodes, fellas, and what a panel lineup. Here's to 100 more. Amen. Aramaic Discourse, $10 with a salute. Thank you, sir. Robert Affixum, another one, $5. We're doing it for the fellas, the homies, the boys, the guys, the dudes, the bros. No more skirts, dames, broads, or floozies in charge. No more longhouse. We are leaving Henpekistan. Deo Vindici.
Amen.
I couldn't say it better. Maverick Jones for $5. Final super chat. The entire group of 15 young guys I work with this summer were all JQ pilled. The future is with the youth. I can't. Impossible to argue with. Impossible to argue with. All right, around the horn. What you got? What you got going on, Raging Mandrill?
Not much these days, unfortunately. But yeah, I have a very busy work schedule now, so unfortunately, I'm mostly dedicating to that for the next several months. We'll have an article by the end of this month, however, for the OGC on Substack. That's definitely planned in the works. It will get done. And yeah, so stay tuned for that. It will be Halloween themed.
Awesome. Not me, not you. What you got?
Yeah, check out the Chapter House every Wednesday evening at 9 p.m. It's to get to know the chapters and their regions around the country. And you know, I recommend people read it, that they listen to it, if only to get ideas on tactics and organizational structures that work, are tried and true. Every chapter has added something to the pool of available tactics and operations and various projects that would be worthy of emulation. So it's not just for getting to know them, but also that so that we can be more effective as an organization. So please check it out. And reminder about the East Coast Forum: contact your regional liaison if you can make it to Virginia for tickets. They're going fast, and there aren't many left.
Stormy, it's not like you've done like 10 podcasts this week. What have you got going on?
Nothing, man. Just check out the Inquisition and catch more of myself, the great Pete Quinones, the legendary Thomas 777, and Astral. And also, I encourage everybody to read Was I Sexually Assaulted by Richard Hanania, where he describes the many times that stronger, better, more masculine young men than him draped their testicles rightfully over his face. And his inner quest to find out whether or not he was in fact sexually assaulted, and discuss the damage of trauma culture. That's it for me.
Absolutely amazing. I will add that the young Mr. Burden joined us on the Inquisition this week, and it was quite the episode. We've been able to knock out some Inquisitions lately. We've been finding time in the morning to
Oh my God, it's miserable.
It's so bad.
It's not fair. Jay Burden wakes up at like 5 in the fucking morning. It's already his afternoon.
When he told me
Some
that,
of us sleep like normal people.
He's like, "Oh yeah, I wake up at like 5 every morning." I'm like, "I why?"
Because he's a sadist or a masochist, rather.
Well,
if you're not in the military,
yeah.
Right? Like, it
There's
makes
no
no
reason for you.
goddamn sense.
Well, I'm going to sign off for the Old Glory Club, for the panel here. I want to thank everyone in the chat, everyone that super chatted tonight. And if you're interested in the East Coast event, please contact the Old Glory Club. And yeah, that's it. Till next week.
Just join the
Take care,
Old Glory
everyone.
Club.
Join the Old Glory Club. Take care.